The second largest country in the world is currently doing collapse. What has happened in so many years? So many people have been suffering in so many years, so your life can become hell when
something crazy has been happening in the last couple of years. It seems a lot of people are moving out of the country.
I don't see my future in Canada.
come here. Thousands of people are leaving Canada.
I don't understand anymore.
Because I'm not enjoying it here. How the hell is anyone existing in Canada? Like, I feel trapped.
Inflation break record of previous 40 years in Canada. Nearly 7,000 people lost their jobs in July. Canada's streets are full of drugs violence, and crime rates are at their highest in 30 years and have risen sharply in the past 2 years. Canada's house rent buying and selling has become impossible for nearly 70% of the population. Homelessness in Canada has almost doubled over the past 10 years, meaning the percentage of people without a home to live in has almost doubled. The answer to how we got to this situation today are the 4 reasons that we are going to discuss in this video, so please listen carefully to the end of the video. In terms of the world's second largest country, Canada has the Pacific Ocean in the west, the Atlantic Ocean in the south, and the Arctic Ocean in the north. In fact, 50% of Canadians live within a radius of 1 million miles below this line. This province of Canada, Ontario, contributes around 40% of GDP, and especially on the northern side, there is snow everywhere. There are many lakes and rivers. 50% of our entire land is freshwater lakes in Canada. Canada is rich in natural resources. Canada has the 4th largest oil reserves in the world. In addition, Canada has huge resources of potash, uranium, coal, geothermal energy and natural gas. Due to the numerous lakes and water resources, 60% of Canada's energy comes from hydrothermal plants, and therefore Canada is the second largest hydroelectric generating country in the world. Canada's main industries are real estate, mining and manufacturing, all of which are located in these provinces, and that's why the majority of the population lives here despite such great conditions. Over the years, Canada's graph has been going downwards very fast. 75% of immigrants became Canadian nationals in 2001, meaning that many who are now coming to Canada do not want to stay in Canada long term. According to a recent survey, it is very troubling when immigrants from any country start leaving it or are not interested in taking its nationality. It is a very dangerous sign in all of this crisis. First, from the biggest reason is cost of living. This colored circle shows you how much housing prices have changed in Canada over the last 10 years. Housing prices have almost doubled since 2008. A very famous Canadian vlogger, according to K, a 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom apartment in Waterloo, Canada, which was available at a rent of $900 in 2017, now has a rent of $2,000 in 2030, which means that the rent has gone up 21% in 6 years. In 2015, the mortgage that was offered for $1,400 has now been offered for around $3,500, which means that the rent for a small 1-bedroom apartment in the big cities of Canada, where most people live, is $2,000, and if you want to buy it, the mortgage is $3,500 in this situation. While the average monthly salary in Canada is between $4,000 and $6,000, how can you afford a mortgage? And this $6,000 salary is also a bit in the upper range of white-collar jobs. The average annual salary in Canada is $60,000, which means a $5,000 salary. That's why a recent survey found that 63% of Canadians don't own a home, and they've literally given up on the idea that they're never going to be able to afford a home. And that's because with lets, if your annual salary is $60,000, after tax it's going to be around $50,000. If you live in a major city like Toronto, Vancouver, or Waterloo, you'll comfortably have an annual rent of $20,000 to $25,000 for food expenses, which is the minimum, then car insurance, then medical insurance, and then sometimes shopping, especially for warm clothes. Able to afford an average home, it will take you at least 10 to 15 years to accumulate enough money to afford an average home of your own. So rising housing prices are the #1 reason why people in Canada it is becoming difficult to live in, especially those who came to Canada after 2019. Another reason is the slow job market. Actually, Canada is very heavily dependent on natural resources, and therefore most of the investment is in the mining, manufacturing or real estate sector in Canada. 17% of Canada's GDP comes from natural resources, and 50% of Canada's merchandise exports are also from natural resources. Similarly, the biggest disadvantage of this entire housing bubble is that all the money is in real estate instead of industry. Because home prices are rising so fast that investors want to invest in real estate more than businesses, and how will jobs be created when industries don't start? Similarly, Canada's two biggest export industries are oil and cars both manufacturing is rapidly declining. Most of the oil in Canada comes from Alberta and about 70% of it goes to the US. It is extracting comparatively cheap oil, which is causing demand for Canadian oil to fall, and as a result, revenues for oil-related companies are falling, and they are laying off people, just like the recession of 2008. The car manufacturing industry in Canada has been in continuous decline since 1999. In 1999, 3 million vehicles were made in Canada, while by 2020 this production was 1.4 million, and the main reason for this is that these companies are now shifting from Canada to Mexico because the labor cost there is much less. In Canada, the most affected people are students, especially those who go from India and Pakistan with the hope that they will earn money by taking admission in some degree and doing some part-time work, and then finally become a national by taking PR, etc. But now the situation has changed a lot. There used to be labor jobs like cleaning, etc., or in warehouses, but now they are also almost full. In the last few years, so many people have gone to Canada from South Asia that there is no vacancy left in labor jobs and even skills. Competition is also fierce in related jobs such as engineering or finance. In fact, Canada was hit hard by COVID, which caused many businesses to shut down, and then the following year, the Russia-Ukraine war began, which led to a global recession, and during this period millions of immigrants and students came to Canada, especially from Asia, to build a career. So now the reality is that there is more supply of people and there is no work. If you want to go to Canada, you must have an exceptional skill that very few people have, because more people came to Canada in the last year, between 2021 and 2022, than in any one year in the last 20 years. If you don't come to Canada, there are too many short people and too few jobs. The third reason that makes Canada less desirable is the increasing violence. Since 2020, cases of armed robbery and murder have been reported in Canada. Many Canadian news. According to the agencies, such wild rhymes have never been seen in Canada till date, and the most dangerous thing of all is the unprovoked random attacks. You could be walking down the street, and suddenly someone will kick you, push you, or punch you and run away. The reason is mental illness. Since COVID, many people have been mentally affected by unemployment, inflation and strict taxation laws, and they are acting out of frustration. That there is an element of racism, but overall, if you ask anyone you know who has lived in Canada for many years, they will confirm that recently the violence and crime rate has increased significantly, and the last thing that Canadians had the most pride in their healthcare system, but now it has also been badly affected, especially after COVID. Many Canadians have raised the issue that before 2019, you could walk into a clinic anytime and get a same-day doctor's appointment, but now people have to wait weeks or even months. The average wait time in Canada is 27 weeks. It means you have any disease, then your number on average in National Health Service will come after for months if you have any disease. If you have a serious illness, you will have to go to the emergency room, but even here, admission is done on the basis of priority. For example, patients with heart attacks or accidents are given priority, while the rest are put on hold. Similarly, cancer screening is also reduced, has been placed on priority, which has greatly increased the risk of late cancer diagnoses in people. So all in all, Canada is no longer the Canada we've been hearing about. Justin Trudeau government is to blame for all this or not? You will find many different opinions on it, but one thing is for sure, that the approval rating of the Canadian Prime Minister is the lowest at the moment, and he will be very popular in the elections of 2025. Time is going to give. Even wedding agencies, you will find quite different opinions anywhere. Pakistanis and Indians are very unhappy with rising inflation in Canada, and especially those who have not got white-collar jobs are living very hard. You people, Canada, what do you know about the situation, and how much do you agree with what has been said in this video? Do share in the comments below. Here are all the sources from which we have consulted for this video. Goodbye will take care of himself with another interesting topic.